Welcome to the train wreck that is the outdoor garden. Look at that. Looks abandoned. Yep. Alright, so again, this whole area was filled. First of all, it was all grassy, so we cut down the grass. My husband tilled it quite a few times. We had to dig up boulders and rocks and roots. This is just not the best soil. And we really didn't put any amendments down other than that fertilizer bag that I showed you earlier. I sprinkled it over the individual plants when I was putting them in. I just didn't have a lot to give to the soil. So obviously the plants didn't have a lot to take either. We'll start here. I've got my Brussels sprouts. I mean, they're trying. I'm not going to get any, if you look at them closely, I've grown them before with, there we go, I'm trying to get it to, can I get you to focus? Okay, well, I'm just making that worse. But as you can see, those teeny tiny little balls are what the Brussels sprouts are supposed to be. And because it's already August, I don't think I'm going to get any. Again, my cabbages. Everybody up here grows great cabbages. Guess who can't? Me. I can't. I failed. My cabbages failed. Not getting ahead. I mean, that's the beginning of the head. That's something you'd want to see in like June. So, or even earlier. That ain't happening. My cabbage seeds would not take. So I started everything indoors. And a lot of places were like, oh, just plant the cabbage directly in the ground. I don't think it would have done much better because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But it took so long to thaw this year. I didn't get any of these plants out until pretty much the end of May. So everything that's in here has been June, July, beginning of August. I grew a lot. I started almost everything in my house. This is the first year I've started that many plants inside. And my cabbage kept dying. I had to start my cabbage like 3 times. And these are the 3 cabbage plants left. I'll probably cook the leaves, but I'm not going to get a head off of that. Here's my broccoli. I've already cut some heads off. My broccoli did okay. It bolts really quickly. So like I'll get these little heads and then it'll, well, barely a head, but these little guys, and it'll start to flower almost immediately. Broccoli's mixed reviews. We'll see. I've got Chinese broccoli, which again flowers really easily. These are okay. They were really woody. Even when I tried to harvest them early, they were still super woody. And this is something I'm seeing in a lot of my leaves. They're turning reddish brown, and I don't know what that means. I'm pretty, obviously it has something to do with the soil health, but I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, they took okay, but I don't know if I'll grow Chinese broccoli again. All right, these are very disappointing. This is my kohlrabi. I've grown kohlrabi many times with great success. These guys did not get in the ground soon enough. They needed to go in the ground way sooner than they did. You can see here I've got the ball, but it's just, it shouldn't be, it should be closer to this, really. He's okay. He's still not great. He's like the best of the worst. But that's like in the ground, well, close to the ground. This guy, he's just like, I don't know. He's like making his way downtown or something. I don't know what he's doing. Same. That guy, still going. They just got so leggy or stringy. I don't know. And this, I'm pretty sure it's because they were in the solo cups too long and I did not get them into the ground when I should have. Okay, then I've got my celery. My celery did okay. It's very stringy. This is still fine for soups. You're not going to get really crunchy celery. But I'm still gonna harvest this and freeze a bunch of it and just use it in soups and whatnot, which is what I mostly use celery for. Probably save the leaves too. God, I feel like I started my celery back in February. Like, they take a really long time. And they did okay. They didn't do great. I don't know if I'm going to do this again just because I feel like I'm not using it enough to justify taking up space in the garden. I don't know. It's still in the air. I don't know if I'll do it again. I've got my onions. Some of my onions are doing okay. That's my big boy. My pride and joy. My one decent onion. And, you know, of course there's weeds everywhere, and that's my fault, and I didn't keep up with them like I should have, and that doesn't help anybody. But yeah, I've got a handful of onions. They're trying. I planted them so far apart. I feel like I planted everything so far apart, and I didn't need to. Everything I was reading, they're like, you have to give them, you know, this much space or this much space, and I did. I gave it that much space, assuming it would grow. No. And I've looked at other gardens around here and other Alaskan gardens in general. People plant things really close, really crowded, right on top of each other, and it does considerably better. So that's another thing I've learned, is that next year, everybody's going to get real snuggly. These are my collards. Again, pitiful. And they're turning weird colors. They did not take off the way I thought they would. I am going to grow collards again. I just think it comes down to soil nutrition, soil health, whatever you want to call it. This is my German chamomile. I actually harvested this the other day. Ew, a bug flew in my mouth. So you're not going to see a lot, but these did really nicely. See? They look kind of pitiful right now, but they've been producing the whole time. They did really well this year. I'm really happy with them. I'm going to plant more next year. I don't know. I don't think you can overwinter these. I don't know. But they're pretty cold hardy. I highly recommend chamomile. And then I've got my herbs. This is lavender. It didn't flower very much, but it's you know, it's grown okay. This is my rosemary, which I think would have done much better in the greenhouse. I think it was just too chilly. This is my lemon balm. I've got my mint that kept flowering, but the mint did nicely. These are my catnips, which I kind of hacked apart yesterday. You know, I'm growing them for my cats, so I wasn't really that worried about them. But this is catnip, and this is catnip. And you can see the leaves are getting darker. And this happens to me whenever I grow catnip. Is it normal for the plant leaves to get darker as it gets older? Or is it missing its Flintstone vitamins? Let me know. My weird ass Dr. Seuss dill plant. But, I mean, it grew, so I've got plenty of dill. They call my Dr. Seuss plant because he's kind of wonky. And this is my sage. I've got parsley. I missed the cilantro over there. Oh, I missed. There's like cilantro, oregano, thyme over there. This is the first year I actually was able to grow decent cilantro, which is weird because it's colder. I got my chives. Maybe this is my time. I don't know. I let it flower because I had plenty of it, and I just think they're pretty, and they still smell nice. I just have plenty of it. I don't need a ton. This is my sweet marjoram. Did nice, did okay. And then that's the tripod for the sprinkler. Lord. So we strung up a twine net for the beans and snap peas. The snap peas did really well. They actually took down my net. Oops, sorry. They took down my net. They just got crazy. And I've harvested continually from these, and it kind of sucks because they did really well, but I just don't eat the snap peas enough that I'm gonna do them again. I might switch to a shelling pea, but yeah, they took down my net. And my green beans didn't get very tall. I thought they were gonna climb, and they didn't, but they still produced. And a lot of them were kind of curly. I got curly ones down here, but they still produced. They did all right. And those you can just pack in a ton of plants in a really small area. So, you know, those did pretty well. I'll do them again. I don't think they need a net. They didn't climb. Swiss char, not gonna do this again. Some of it turned red, some of it stayed green. It grew okay. We just don't eat it enough. We just don't. Matt doesn't like it in his salads. He thinks it's too bitter, and I can only cook so much Swiss char before I'm just like, I don't want any more. So, decent plant. I managed not to kill it. I managed to grow some in this sad little garden, but it's just not for us. My mustard greens. This is the mustard plant right here. I don't know if it was the variety or the weather or the soil, but this stuff just kept focusing on the flowers. It just kept bolting over and over and over and over again. And it did not produce the leaves that I wanted. The mustard greens, I'm not going to grow it again. I've been told it spreads like crazy and it'll come back. So even if I don't plant it next year, it might make a guest appearance. But yeah, really not happy with the mustard. Not going to do that again. Here's my kale. Again, I spaced these out assuming that they would get really big, and they just never took off. They did okay. It'd be nice if I had like a box planter, but this is a massive garden and I want massive garden plants. So kale I'm going to do again. I'm going to squish it together. We're going to have much better soil next year. And I think that's going to make a huge difference. I tried to put spinach here. I think some of the spinach started. I think that's spinach. Maybe. One thing I learned is that I can't direct sow lettuce or spinach, even though that's recommended. It doesn't get big enough. So these are the lettuces that I direct sowed. These are the lettuces I started. Huge difference, obviously. So I'm going to start all my leafy greens ahead of time. The ones that I direct sow, they just don't have enough time to really succeed. I did dandelion greens again. These did really nicely. We did have a bout with the aphids, but I'm not going to grow them again. They're just not what we are looking for diet-wise. Or if I do grow them, I'm only going to grow like 2 or 3 plants. All right. My root crops. I have, 4 little carrots going. Long story short, I dropped all of my carrot starts and mauled them. The cats got to them. Carrots don't like transplanting. The list goes on. We have 4 carrots. That's just the way it is this year. I was going to put in like rutabaga and turnips this fall. I don't think I'm going to do that this year. I think I'm going to save the seeds and try next year after we've amended the soil. Last but not least, my calendula. Now right now, around the whole garden, I've got calendula plants. If we go over here to this side, and you can tell the difference because the ones on this side, they get less sun, put off less flowers. Right now, there's almost no flowers on them because, again, I just harvested them. I've been dehydrating the petals. My calendula was like, between the chamomile and the calendula, that's what kept me going this summer. Like, otherwise I would have just cried about the garden. They produce like crazy. I got tons and tons and tons of flower heads. I'd go out, harvest one day, 2 days later, I'd have new flower heads. Those are definitely keepers. I'm really happy with how they did. I'm happy with that variety. I've been dehydrating the petals. I'm going to give them to the chickens I eventually will get to help with their egg yolks. And then there's other things you can do with the petals. But I was really happy with them. And I should have taken a video or a picture sooner. Right now they don't look very impressive. But they were prolific. Despite my best efforts, despite my inability to garden. And then we don't have an actual gate yet. So I'm gonna move this. I'll bring you back in a second. About the garden structure itself, Matt built the greenhouse, and it's got this, if you can see, there's holes, and we thought that, you know, go away mosquito, there'd be some pollinators who would get through here. No, they need a window, they need a fan, they need a window, they need, I don't know, maybe a welcome sign, like, please come in and pollinate. This does not insulate, but the greenhouse, when it was warm, would get up to 15 degrees hotter and hold temps, and it takes longer to cool off than the rest of the garden. But it's really not insulated, so it's not a heated greenhouse. We're not going to do a heated greenhouse anytime soon. We don't have the funds for that. But I'm very proud and happy with my greenhouse. Like I said, I think clearing some of the tree line around it is going to help. But I'm really happy with it. So I've always wanted a greenhouse, and so some people be like, oh, well, that's not that impressive or not my thing, but it makes me happy. Every time I look at it, it makes me happy. This is the the kind of gate around the garden. We were going to make it taller because of the moose. And the moose around here, I don't know if they're lazy or they have better resources they can go to, but this is enough. They don't care. They have not bothered. And you know what? What's weird is we've got tons of rabbits. Actually, I think they're Arctic hares, honestly. We've got tons of them. They didn't, and this is, to me, a rabbit could easily get in there. They didn't care. They stayed out of the garden. So this was more than enough. I thought we were going to have to lock this place up like Fort Knox, and this is all it took. We actually still have extra fencing supplies, so what we're going to do, Matt's probably going to cut these posts. But this alone was enough of a deterrent for the moose and other wildlife. I was actually really surprised. We'll see how it lasts in winter. Maybe the moose will get extra hungry and try to break in, but I don't know. I think it's just not worth the effort for them to get they got those big heavy heads, they got to get over it, and they're just not interested. We are going to have to put something around the raspberries just to be safe, but we'll probably just put that extra roll of wire, we'll probably just put around the raspberries. It won't be anything crazy. My goal, so this is a leach field, which is why I couldn't put the garden here. We've got, sorry, the mosquitoes are really bad. We've got our septic tank under here. I think I'm going to do, over time, some raised flower beds. But that way I can make use of this area without having to worry about any contamination. And I'm really not worried about that now, but, you know, if God forbid we had an issue with the septic system, I wouldn't want to lose my whole garden over it, you know? And so, go wait, yeah, mosquitoes. At some point, yeah, I'm gonna put in flowers over here, because it's evening now, but this gets a lot of sun, and it's a great space. And my goal is to, at some point, have a beehive out here too, and it'll probably be in this area in general. Haven't quite determined where. Okay, so We are going to expand the garden. We're going to take it out a little bit further, give ourselves some more room. The long-term goal is to be self-sustaining, or at least, you know, I want to be able to provide the majority of our vegetables for myself from my garden. We have the only grocery store in town is the only one for 100 miles. It takes lettuce about 4 to 6 weeks to get up here to our town. So by the time you get it, it's really pitiful. It's not very good, and it's super expensive. So finding ways to grow my own crops is really important for me. Trying to be sustainable and all that fun stuff. And I just live in an area where fresh produce is just, unless you're making it yourself, even the grocery stores, and they do really try, but, or I should say grocery stores, singular, you know, they can only do so much. It just takes so long to get up here. And again, extra supplies, which we're going to use. I don't like having stuff laying in the yard. This is my compost pile. It's just 4 pallets put together, nothing fancy. Beautiful. Yep. So I've got some plants, some old banana peels. Oh, see back there? That was the weird cucumber. It got really big and then just like turned yellow-orange. It never turned green, so I tossed that in here. And then I've got a lot of, it's not quite sawdust, but I use wood pellets, the same wood pellets we put in our stove during the winter for heat. I use this as cat litter, and I can make a video about that in the future. But that is the cat leftover bathroom stuff, minus their poop. But anyway, yeah, that's another video. Anyway, the goal this year, we're probably going to pull everything up early. I'm going to bring in a whole bunch of manure and a whole bunch of topsoil, and we're going to cover it with that plastic sheet, maybe some extra cardboard I have lying around to let it really cook this winter. And we're probably going to do that around September. We're going to do it that early because I think this garden has done the best it can given the circumstances. The soil was not great. This is our first year. But I wanted to make this video because I feel like a lot of people, you know, they show off these gorgeous gardens, and I'm just like so envious. Like, I want to have a great garden. I just feel like there's a lot of videos of these gorgeous gardens where you see people producing so much and everything's beautiful, and even the garbage plants are great. And you know what? I want to show people that you got to start somewhere. And sometimes your first try is not your best, and that doesn't mean you give up. That means you learn from what works. You learn about what doesn't work. You figure out what you can do on your budget. And to me, even though this garden did not produce what I needed it to produce, or even what I wanted it to produce, I don't think it's a failure. Totally, I should say. I'm still proud of the work my husband and I did. And I want people to know that, hey, your garden might look like this too. It's not very pretty, and it didn't produce. It's not perfect, but we'll get there. So don't feel bad if your garden is not beautiful either, because I wanted to show you how not beautiful my garden was. And that you are not alone in your gardening endeavors. And there are some people who, they're like, I can't grow anything. Just start with like an herb in a pot, and don't give up.